I feel like I'm outnumbered as a non-sports person.
Yes, well, when we get to that story in the show, Andrew, maybe we'll just have Sean kind of make it a two shot, and you'll just slide out of frame, and then when it comes back into
I was outvoted. This was supposed to be my show when we envisioned it, and then I somehow got outvoted. This became way too democratic for my liking. No, again, you're not invited back.
It's the Gen Z sports.
Well, Andrew, there's some statistics in the story, so maybe you'll be good at that. You can parse that out for us.
Oh, lovely. You can go to me as like the sad, lonely stats guy in the corner, like, John King on CNN with his little, magic board or whatever. All right. Let's get this started. Hello and welcome to Off the Record. This is True North's Friday fun show. We try to take a bit of a less serious look at the week that was, and we have a new face on the show today. We have my friend and colleague Harrison Faulkner, host of Ratioed and The Faulkner Show, and joining us for the first time, Noah Jarvis, a True North journalist. You also hear from time to time on Daily Brief, though you don't see him there. So you are seeing him in the flesh here. Noah, welcome to Off the Record. Good to have you on board.
Well, it's a great pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, there we go. How are your guys' weeks? This was budget week. I know, very exciting, riveting stuff.
Well, it was about as much as I expected the budget to be. And, like all that I ended up hearing on Twitter and seeing on Twitter were, all this talk about the capital gains taxes rising. And, well, I don't know. I'm not shocked at all to hear it.
One of our colleagues, I can't remember what it was. One of our colleagues, who I won't, it wasn't one of the ones on the call. So, I mean, we're a small enough team, people could figure out, was like, the budget's boring. No one cares about that. I'm like, well, we're a news organization, so we have to care about it for the sake of one day. But I think you're you're certainly younger than me, Noah. Like, I don't think budget was like the galvanizing issue among your circle of friends, probably, right?
No, my friend circle from high school wasn't, just grasping for the budget. But I would say that, at least in my circles, it got a lot more attention than your average budget does. And people were just generally disappointed, taxes going up, more government spending. It's not a good look for the country.
Fair enough. Well, the whole thing was 430 pages. We are going to focus on one page only. That's it. We're making you care about one page here because it is a page that says the federal government is going to give $42 million to CBC. Now, you may think, oh, wow, $42 million. CBC, they get $1.4 billion. This sounds like an absolute steal. We're getting away. No. That's $42 million additional dollars. $42 million additional. They're still getting their $1.4 billion subsidy. They're still getting their ad revenue. They're now getting an additional $42 million. Now, I'll read the why. This is like a third of a page in the budget, page 236, under the chapter of Safer, Healthier Communities. I don't know how this is contributing to a safer, healthier community, but nevertheless, investing in CBC is to give us ensure Canadians across the country, including rural, remote, Indigenous, and minority language communities, have access to high-quality, independent journalism and entertainment. Now, I think the real breaking news story here is that CBC is offering high-quality journalism and entertainment, is it not? I guess not.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
I was setting one of you up for something there.
Yes. No.
Yeah, I was waiting for Harrison to take a shot.
I'm looking for CBC, television shows, some of those really great shows that I think probably amount to about $42 million. I can't think of better ways to service rural Canadian communities and the French Canadian communities by, more shows like 22 Minutes, more shows like Schitt's Creek. Actually, no, that show was actually like maybe one of their better ones. All the ones that they did. They had that show, Lido TV, if you recall, Talking Tomatoes.
The one that lectured, it was the tomato that lectured you about colonialism and feminism, wasn't it? I love that. Exactly. I love that one. It's the only one I know.
Send that to the rural communities. Send that to the far north, and give them some more Talking Tomatoes. $42 million, that's probably enough for another season or two, Andrew. So
yeah, you can get like a full Jaws-style animatronic tomato now instead of some weird crappy CGI thing. You can go the full one. We'll do like Avatar 3 will just be like a big CGI tomato that James Cameron will consult on CBC for. So it's absurd. And again, like they try to say that they're going to be the ones that stand up for these forgotten pockets of Canada, the North, Indigenous communities, people that speak French. Olympics and the Oscars and all of these really popular things. So it's not even like, Noah, they're really focusing on that underserved market that they claim they are.
No, they're not focused on the underserved market. It seems like half the time you flip on CBC, they're talking about the American election or Donald Trump or whatever, he said on Twitter or Trump Social or Truth Social, actually. So they're not focused on, real Canadian stories. And when they are focused on Canadian stories, it's stuff that the top 10% Laurentian elite would care about, talking about why drag queen story hours need more attention, and why this particular LGBTQ black woman is facing intersectional discrimination or whatever, and how we can combat that. Radio Canada at least has a bit more sense. They did an investigation going into what happens when people go through the gender transition process, but English CBC, they have no sort of backbone to really talk about those types of stories. So when politicians talk about defunding the CBC and maybe keeping around Radio Canada, I think, well, that might be for the better.
Yeah, I did this bit a few weeks ago, and I'm going to repeat the same bit where we were talking about CBC on this show, and I just went to the CBC First Person page, which is this particular series CBC does where they have like a first-person essay about something, and these are always like the most absurd, like wokey, weird things. I'm doing it again. Here are some of the recent examples. Follow the crowds, avoid the clouds. I chase eclipses to witness nature's awesome glory. This is a story from a CBC radio host who apparently just loves following eclipses. Here's one from April 6th. Ramadan leaves me feeling hungry, tired, and a bit giddy. It also makes me a better person. Okay, good for you.
These weren't AI generated, Andrew?
I think it would.
No. This is an AI. This is it could be AI generated. This is like I should actually get ChatGPT to like give me a CBC First Person article, but no, these are from the First Person website. What's another good one here? I solo hiked from Mexico to Canada for my inner journey. Instead, I found myself looking outward. I don't even know what that means. Farming in extreme heat showed me climate change is real. Changing my lifestyle is harder. So $42 million. I don't know how many more of these that buys us, but probably too many.
Well, I just checked as well. Remember, the CBC executives got $14.9 million in bonuses paid out last year. So if this is any indication, perhaps bonuses are going to go up for the CBC executives. They've already recovered all that pay for their bonuses. Now, I forgot to mention a few other shows here, which I think this money can go towards perhaps a new season for what's it called, Murdoch Mysteries. I've heard that Andrew loves that show. How about Baroness Von Sketch Show? 5 seasons. You can bring that one back. It looks like it just recently.
They did one really good one though.
Do they?
They did. I don't know if we can play it, but they did a really good sketch, a really good bit a couple of years back on land acknowledgements that I actually thought was quite funny. But again, even a blind pig finds a truffle once in a while. A broken clock is right twice a day, so it doesn't undermine the core thesis there. I try to remember the last one I watched. Again, Schitt's Creek is good, but I'm also convinced that Schitt's Creek would have been produced and funded by a private media company if CBC weren't there. And how many bad ones do you have to suffer to get that?
How about
Anne with an E?
How about which?
Anne with an E.
Oh, that's the weird Anne of it. Didn't they cancel that one?
I think so. Well, they had 3 seasons. It looks like starting in 2017. So. Again, you can bring it back.
Yeah. I went to elementary school with the star of Heartland. So I was happy for her, but it would probably pain me to know how much but by the way, it's on both ends because CBC gets funding for this, but all of these Canadian productions are also getting huge tax credits from the government anyway. So we're getting hosed left, right, and center. And this is just the entertainment stuff. We also have the money-losing news division. So I know I'm using you as like the token youngin here, Noah. But again, like, is CBC at all culturally relevant to anyone in your life?
No, the litany of shows you guys just listed off, they're pretty much all foreign to me, and I would assume that they're even less familiar to my friend group. And I just say, like, people in my age, they're on TikTok, they get their, long form video content from YouTube. They're less watching, traditional TV shows and that sort of deal. So the CBC is just becoming a more and more obsolete institution as time goes on, and it's especially obsolete for my generation who isn't particularly engaged in politics. They're not necessarily reading the news like you and I. But if they do choose to read the news, it's on Six Buzz or some of these social media accounts, not necessarily the CBC. So the CBC's audience is getting older and older, and perhaps that means the political will to get rid of the institution will get better as time goes on.
Come on, no one's watching Family Feud Canada.
Or they're just
I didn't even know that
the
existed.
42 million to get like Peter Mansbridge TikToks or something, which is just what Canada needs. Oh man, okay.
If the CBC they wanted to. No, I was gonna say, if the CBC they wanted to produce a show that Canadians would watch, they should make a spin-off of Breaking Bad, but instead of Albuquerque, it's in Vancouver. It's kind of like what's going on right now. It's you can even say it was based on a true story.
If they made a spinoff, though, it would involve some, paraplegic, and so it would tick all the different diversity boxes. You're like Breaking Bad, but it would be like some sort of blind, diverse, paraplegic involved in the drug trade, I think.
Yeah, it would just be like.
I believe that's actually a documentary in Vancouver. It's not even fictional programming. All right. There's no natural segue from that to our next topic. This was one, we talked about it earlier on my show this week, but you flagged it here, Noah, and it seems to be actually getting some steam online, this business with Rito Hall last week.
Yeah, so basically what happened was the Governor General, she hosted a big ball. I call it the Online Harms Ball, where she basically invited
It wasn't called
a bunch
a ball.
of people
It was a symposium.
It was a symposium. Makes it sound nicer. But basically, they invited a bunch of pro, censorship, pro online harms legislation people to the Governor General's mansion. The justification for this is that the Governor General can promote certain causes that he or she wants to promote. But this is a partisan issue. It is very contentious legislation that was just tabled by a very unpopular Trudeau government. And I believe polls would also show that this legislation is quite divisive amongst the Canadian people. So she invited the Attorney General, Arif Virani, to the mansion. She invited the likes of Nili Kapil-Mirth, the notorious Ottawa school board trustee. She also invited Rachel Gilmore, the greatest, the best and brightest in Canadian journalism. And she invited a bunch of other just pro-censorship, pro-online harms people to the Governor General's mansion, which compromises the integrity of the Governor General's office and the impartiality that office is supposed to hold. I didn't know that this was the 1840s where the Governor General is, actively involved in politics and, the day-to-day workings of Canadian society. But it seems like we are regressing quite a bit under the Trudeau government. How do you guys feel about this story?
Go ahead. We have to be very careful when we're talking about these journalists and these activists who are at this Governor General's event. We know they're very sensitive, so any mention of their names whatsoever might trigger some sort of awful response, and they might get very scared. I mean, I'm not really that surprised to see it. I think that everybody knows the Liberals seem to not have as much respect for these institutions that you would see perhaps in the previous Conservative government, and view it more as some sort of vessel to advance their political interests. So to see the Governor General, Mary Simon, get involved in essentially promoting a piece of legislation which is roundly thought of in this country as being a dangerous piece of legislation. In fact, the people who are now supposed to execute the legislation, to think of not to have the best word for it, but that's really what it is. The Human Rights Tribunal. I've spoken to a former commissioner of the Human Rights Tribunal, who said that this legislation was dangerous. So again, I'm not that surprised to see Mary Simon get involved in this way, but I would appreciate it if the federal government took the role of the Governor General more serious and put someone in there who respected the institution as much as it deserves to be respected.
Yeah, I think you're by far like the most, you've got like the hair trigger sensitivity to attacks on the monarchy, Harrison. I think as far as our team is concerned, you're like the most stalwart defender of it. I'm kind of the mind that like it was better when Britain sent us a Governor General, because at least they were the Crown's representative in Canada truly, instead of this like Canadian who's been picked for all of these political reasons and really isn't interested in holding the responsibility. I mean, you look at Mary Simon. She is clearly taking a political role when she's wading into this. Her predecessor had zero interest in all of the responsibilities of the Governor General, Julie Payette. And you go before that, David Johnston. I mean, here's a guy, he had a relatively uncontroversial team as Governor General, but just completely became a partisan political sellout afterwards. So we've not exactly had a good run lately in this role. So I'm not all that surprised, but it actually, it undermines the institution itself.
Right. I'm of the belief that they should just put a member of the royal family into the position and call it a day.
No, we'd get Meghan Markle then.
Yeah, no.
That would be our punishment.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking the Duke of Edinburgh. I think Prince Edward would do a great job as Governor General. And I think if, give it a shot, Pierre. If you get the job, give it a shot. Trust me, I think it might be good.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, Harrison, where like the current system we have right now is like this weird halfway house between the old system where the British would appoint our Governor General and, other democracies where, they have a figurehead president that is elected, but they don't do anything. It's really just the prime minister that, is the head of government. So I think that, yeah, there could be, something to glean from this story that perhaps we just have this weird role for the Governor General and it ought to be reformed. But it seems like Mary Simon, our current Governor General, likes to, spend lavishly and, get involved in political affairs. And she doesn't particularly take the job seriously. It really calls into question the type of people that the Trudeau government is appointing to be Governor Generals. We had Julie Payette, who had to resign in shame because she was, harassing her staff and overspending. And it seems like we got someone who wants to get involved in political affairs and eat caviar on the jet, Canadian jet or whatever.
I forgot about that story. Yeah.
It's important. Like, there are jokes that we can make about it, but also the role is very serious because we could find ourselves in a situation where an election results in a very close, makeup of parliament, and a minority government situation will perhaps result in the Governor General having a major decision on their hands. We've seen this happen before in our country, and it's not like it can't happen again. It's a serious role, and you really want to have someone who is guaranteed to be impartial. I think we've kind of gone further away from that. David Johnston has shown himself in his post-Governor General life to not be that way. He's the ski buddy of Trudeau's and is a part of the Trudeau Foundation. But I don't think many people thought of David Johnston as a particularly partisan Governor General when he was in the role, and I think that's important to remember. You want to have faith in this institution because there are times when it can become very consequential, and the Governor General can decide whether or not to dissolve Parliament, can decide whether or not to force an election. There are times when this becomes really important, and so I think it's time that this institution is taken more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely right. I would agree. Go ahead, Noah.
No, I was going to say you're right, because when you have a competent Governor General, things could go awry. If you guys recall, I don't know if you're still alive in the 1920s, Andrew, but back then there's this thing called the King.
When did I become the old one? I remember when I was always the young one, by the way, and then there was a flip switch that flipped, and I became the old one. But no, assume that I wasn't, Noah.
Well, but back in the 1920s, there was an affair where the Prime Minister, William Lyon Mackenzie King, he asked the Governor General to dissolve Parliament and to call for an election. However, the Governor General, he did not. He appointed the opposition leader, who was, I believe, was a conservative. And then he basically could not manage Parliament. The government was dissolved, and an election was called. William Lyon Mackenzie King won a majority. So you can see like the sort of political crisis that can happen where you have a poor Governor General. And also maybe this would happen. This happened in your lifetime, Andrew. But in 2008, when Prime Minister Harper asked the Governor General to dissolve Parliament, call for an election. It took her hours just to even take the meeting with Harper. She left Harper out in the hallway for hours on end, consulting with her advisors, trying to perhaps maybe even undermine the Prime Minister. So it really is important, that job, and it is something that our current Governor General, Mary Simon, doesn't take too seriously.
All right, quick, Noah, since you brought it up, you have to give me the Governor General's name in the William Lyon Mackenzie King debacle.
It was Lord Bing or something. I don't know.
Yes, there you go. The
Yeah.
King Bing affair. You win the Canadian history quiz today. The prize is, well, it's nothing, but well done. All right. Harrison, what do you have?
All right, well, now that we got that history lesson out of the way, let's jump back to current times here, folks. Well, this is very interesting and hardly surprising, I'm afraid to say. It turns out that in the military, just a few weeks ago, actually, the first transgender chaplain was being celebrated and honored by the Canadian military during Transgender Day of Visibility. What is this guy's name here? Beatrice Gale. Just a few weeks ago, he was all over Twitter, celebrated as this great, visionary figure in the military. Well, look at this story we've just published as an exclusive in True North. This person has just been suspended over an alleged sexual groping comment. Here are some of the details from the DND. This incident stems from an inappropriate comment or request to another individual. Either member was in a position of authority over the other. Gale received a relatively minor service infraction on April 3rd. Gale was also found to have violated the Queen's regulations and orders which govern military conduct and affairs. The reason the story is interesting, however, is because there seems to be two standards in the military when it comes to these incidents. As you all will well be aware, the military has gone through several high-profile sexual misconduct allegation stories involving some very senior officers in the military, all the way up to the role of Chief of the Defense Staff. There was one... First of all, True North reached out to Gale for comment, didn't get a response. And when True North reached out to a military lawyer who represents other members who are being accused of all number of things, this lawyer pointed out this double standard here. He says, if a male officer behaved in a similar manner toward a subordinate female, the situation would be dealt with differently, and the offender's name would be leaked to the press. Unfortunately, there's a lack of equality in how the Canadian Armed Forces handle such allegations. What do you guys think of this story? I just find it to be one of those classic Canadian Armed Forces 2024 stories. Andrew?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of problems here. I mean, look, anyone has it in them to commit an act of wrong in the military, transgender or otherwise. They have disciplinary systems in place to deal with those. I think the fact that this person was a chaplain makes it particularly more egregious, because a chaplain is someone who's there to deal with people in terms of their spiritual health and wellness and well-being. I mean, puts them working with people who are in a very vulnerable place. I think the problem you have here is when the military bends over backwards to look woke and progressive. And you know that tends to come at a cost. I mean, Noah, you and I have talked about this in other contexts where DEI policies are advanced and everyone says it's not anti-merit, but a lot of the times it is, because people prioritize this one thing over the other. So when you have the military saying, oh, this is our hero of inclusivity, our hero of this, and then they turn around and, okay, well, this is a person who is, by the military's own processes, committing an infraction of service, which, again, from Cosman's reporting, it sounds like it was a request to grope side. I mean, look, maybe great that they're requesting instead of just doing, but like at the end of the day, there's an inappropriateness here from a chaplain. And again, how does this still get treated as though someone is being this icon of inclusivity? And you see this in the US. There's that Admiral Levine that is trotted out there. And I think the military has to start focusing on being a good, respectable military and not being the most inclusive, diverse, woke armed forces in the world.
And, it really undermines the cohesiveness of the military. I mean, the military has already been going through some problems when it comes to military cohesion. We have, people, or we have the government imposing the military to put tampons in the male bathrooms, and we have drag queen story hour or drag queen shows happening on military bases, and just poor recruitment numbers. It just all points to discohesion within the military, and this sort of thing doesn't help.
There's a couple more important details about this story that I want to address, because it kind of goes more into detail of this double standard here when it comes to prosecuting these cases. So Cosman tried to get some more details here from the Canadian Armed Forces, and basically this is how it went. The Liberals introduced a bill to strip the military of its ability to investigate and prosecute sexual offenses within the military. That means it has to go to an actual court outside of the military court. This allegation, however, is being prosecuted inside the military. The CAF has decided to withhold the records of Gale's summary hearing, citing privacy grounds. However, according to military rules, a summary hearing is to be held in public except if the conducting officer believes information affecting a person's privacy or security interest, or if that interest outweighs the public's interest in the information, would be disclosed. So you see, right? There's two things happening which are not happening. We're not releasing the public some hearing of what happened to this individual and what this individual allegedly did, and they're prosecuting it within the military. I think the point should be made that this would not be the case had it been anybody else. Had it been a member who basically fits into the rank and file troops, they would not be given the same treatment. I just find it ironic that a week before this story comes out, or maybe a few weeks before this story comes out, they were trotting out this transgender chaplain as a symbol of what the military can be and how great the military is.
Yeah, no, very, very good point on that. You guys sent me something about a basketball, which I had trouble following, so I just didn't bother with it. But whoever wants to talk about that, go ahead.
So here we go. This is the part where the Gen Z take begins, I guess, on the sports commentary. Now, here's the thing about this story, right? Sports gambling is in the news. Everybody sees it. They see way too many ads for it. And this is always bound to happen. There was always going to be an athlete that was going to get caught up in this mess. And it just so happened to be a relatively unknown Toronto Raptors player to be the first big name, I think, to fall under what I think is going to be several eventually. Now, this guy, Jontay Porter, you probably don't know about him because not many people did know about this guy. He was basically unknown. Now, he was on, this information is important. This guy was on about $440,000 a year. That's a lot, of course, but compared to basketball standards, that's at the bottom of the league, essentially. This guy has just been banned for life from the NBA for essentially betting against himself, involved in some sort of group where other people were also involved in betting against himself, and producing those kinds of performances on the court, essentially fixing his own performances to make sure people could cash out in the millions. So for my research here, Noah, basically what happened was one of these sports books noticed that the biggest winner on two separate occasions was the Jontay Porter under figures. People were betting under this guy's rebounds, points. People were betting underneath what was going to be expected, and they were the biggest winners of the night. Millions of dollars on this one random player that nobody heard of. People were cashing out big time on this. I mean, clearly that's a red flag. Why? How did they think they could get away with this nonsense?
As a Raptors fan, this really strikes deep at my core. It's a shame that this happened to one of our players, and it's not like this guy had been around for very long. But I think it's a good thing that the NBA, they're cracking down hard on this. They gave him a lifetime ban to sort of disincentivize other people from doing this. But like if this happened to an all-star level player, this would be a really terrible thing for the league, and it would just put the league in a sort of situation where they have to either ban the guy and perhaps sacrifice profit, or they would keep him around and sacrifice their integrity. But the fact that this happened to a player on the Raptors is terrible. I don't know if you guys have been watching the Raptors this season. It's over now, thank God. But the Raptors, they brought in like a bunch of random players that you've never heard of. This guy named Freeman Liberty, that's his last name. It's pretty redundant.
I like him. That guy sounds great.
Yeah. He's
Freeman
okay, so maybe
Liberty.
it's a good
That's
thing.
I can get
Water
behind
cooler
that.
in
I care about
Wash at
sports
True
now.
North to gift Andrew a Raptors Freeman Liberty jersey, and you can hang it up in the back of
Yeah.
the shot. Add a bit of color behind your shot there, Andrew, with a
Yeah, we'll do it for his
Yeah.
birthday.
Freeman
And his middle name is I don't know. Find a good middle name. Justice. Freeman, Justice, Liberty, or something.
Yeah, but
okay,
like when you bring
my
let
one
me just
question
make
on
one
this:
last
aren't
point.
these guys paid
go ahead.
enough that the payoff of this is relatively low? That you make more money by being good than by being bad? Or am I just way off?
Here's what I found out about this. I didn't know about this, but this guy was making like basically league minimum. And again, you're making $400,000. You're doing well. You shouldn't be involved in a major multi-million-dollar gambling scandal. But this guy's brother was guaranteed over $100 million. So maybe there's a little bit of jealousy. Maybe there's a little bit of like nothing to lose because this guy's on the league minimum, and he probably only has 3 years left in the NBA in his career. So somebody went to this guy probably and said, "Listen, we're gonna find a way to make you super rich. We're gonna give you a bunch of money. If you throw your performances, if you don't get like 4 rebounds in this game, then we'll set you up. We'll set you up for life, and no one will notice." But they're so stupid.
Yeah.
They need it twice. Obviously, they were going to get caught. They probably could have got away with it if they weren't so greedy about it all. But I don't know. It sounds ridiculous. But I have to imagine.
And so he didn't get as many field goals as he was supposed to.
No. It looks there are videos of it. There's a video of this guy shooting a 3-pointer and like banking it off the backboard, and he's not happy at all. He's like gutted. He's disappointed about shooting.
Yeah, it went in, and he was mad. It was ridiculous. Like he obviously tried to miss by like throwing it off the backboard, but it just like went back in. He was like, "Oh no, this
you gotta
is
be a better actor.
Now I hit the over."
Yeah.
All right, you guys have had your fun. You got your sports story out of your system. I've dropped something mysteriously that I hope wasn't breakable. Anyway, all right, let's go to this. This is a fun one to let. I mean, it's a sad one, but it's a fun one. And as someone who had a grandmother with a great sense of humor who's now passed away, sadly, I feel this lady has a bit of a sense of humor as well. This one video went viral of a dying woman finding the silver lining in her upcoming fate.
Well, folks, the doctors told me that I'm on my way out, meaning I'm dying. And you know what? I'm so damn happy that I'll finally get Justin Trudeau out of my life.
I don't even know that woman's name. Her granddaughter posted the video on TikTok. The granddaughter's username is Fury at the Wall on TikTok. And then I don't use TikTok on account of, like the Chinese stuff, but like the Chinese government's oversight of it. But every now and then I'll see a video and I don't log in or anything. But I went to this person's TikTok and they had posted another video from this woman in which she also had some, well, why don't I just, let Granny describe it?
Guess what Justin Trudeau does to me, how he affects me. He gives me the word starts with S and ends with T. What would that be?
What? I don't know.
The shits.
He gives you the shit. Because he's full of shit.
Yeah.
Is he full of crap?
You should go to the hospital and have a gallon of shit-proof stuff stuck up his butt.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll finally make sense.
By the way, really
Apologize to
convincing
anyone
censoring job there, Sean. I had no idea what word was being uttered there at all. It's like you take out like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a syllable. But anyway, we got to keep our clean tag on Apple Podcast. Granny for Prime Minister, right?
This is not the video you want to have when you're a prime minister, I'm afraid. It's the kind of thing you really want to be able to avoid, having, dying old ladies wishing that just being thankful to get rid of you.
You are the reason I'm not sad that I'm dying, because I won't have to deal with you anymore. That was her message.
Oh, just horrendous for this world here seems nature. But also, that this woman is with us and that she can last Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister. I want her to see the light before she leaves this earth, leaves this country. It would be a nice thing for her, I have to imagine. It may be a while, but maybe if a senior Liberal cabinet minister is watching and is motivated by this, to give her one last look at the light of Canada without Justin Trudeau before she passes. Hopefully she's still with us, and hopefully she can outlast Trudeau.
Yeah. And
What do you think, Noah? Do you buy
lady to be
Granny's
positive.
story there that Justin Trudeau gives her the bleeps?
Yeah, he gives me the bleep, so I kind of feel that her pain. But kudos to this lady that she's able to turn lemon to lemonade because she's on her deathbed. She could be all depressed about it, like, oh, I have these regrets or whatever. But she's like, there's a positive to this. I don't have to deal with Justin Trudeau's bleeps anymore, right? So it's kudos to her. She can demonstrate how to be positive about life, take a good message out of this. It doesn't have to be all depressing all the time, right?
You're a regular Tony Robbins there, Noah, with your insights on the world and the human spirit. I like it. It's all positive. It's all, no worries. Hakuna Matata, right? All right. Well, Granny, if you are listening, we stand with you. Harrison's hoping you can hold out until 2024. But you know what? I good to have a sense of humor about the world. If you're not laughing, you're crying, and there's been plenty of reason to do that as well. All right. That does it for us for today. My thanks to Harrison and Noah for coming on. And remember, everything you've heard is off the record. Okay, I really want to try to get this grandma on my show. I don't know if it's possible. Yeah. I'm going to try. Can you message people on TikTok? Do either of you guys know?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I think... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Noah has a TikTok account, so we should ask Noah to go and figure that out. You have TikTok?
Oh gosh, even though I'm the young one, I stay away from TikTok for the same reasons as Andrew. And also, TikTok is terrible for your health. It cooks your brain. It's not good. Don't recommend it whatsoever. Keep your kids off TikTok, people.
She just posted 7 minutes ago another video saying her grandma worked in Parliament when Pierre Trudeau was in office. And there's she has a montage of, but still doesn't say the name of the person.
Was it a Robert Sandfield supporter?
Bob Sandfield. Oh, you're rocking the Canadian history today, Noah.
I'm a Canadian history par excellence.
I don't know. I think your second official language need a little work there.
Oh, Andrew, insultez mi pas, mon langue deuxième n'est pas très mal. Okay, c'est d'accord.
Yeah, no Noah Chrétien over there.
See you guys. I'm out of this French conversation.